Okay, we're back. It's the Dark Reading News Desk, and we're bringing you live coverage of BlackHat USA until 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific today. I'm Lenny Liebman, and our next guest is General Manager of Applications and Security for Spirent. It's Jon Weinschenk. Jon, how are you doing?
I'm doing great today.
So you're doing great. I don't think CISOs are doing so great. As a matter of fact, I think in many ways that's a job title that really, I want to say it kind of sucks to be a CISO today. There's a lot of stuff coming at us, and we've got a lot of exposure. Give me your take on what the predicament is of the CISO today.
Well, I mean, I think their challenge is that we have very complex systems. And most CISOs have solutions that they have to deliver to the market. And those solutions are built on top of computers, chips, operating systems, hardware, software. And all of those things are developed from different companies. And so what they're trying to do is they're trying to run a business, but the problem is that there's so many components that there's an unlimited threat vector that can attack them. And so their real question is, well, how do I protect myself, and how do I do it with a limited budget? Because unfortunately, their budgets are not growing that much.
How much do you think budgets are growing versus how much the threat vulnerability is growing?
Well, so the threat vulnerabilities is always morphing.
Yeah.
So the problem that you run into is that things that existed 5 years ago, people have stopped doing those, and they find new methods and methodologies to do the attacks. The problem is I think that CISO budgets are probably growing anywhere from 4 to 8% year to year.
Right.
Maybe if you get attacked, maybe you'll get a bonus and they'll give you a 20%. You probably get fired, the next CISO takes over and gets a 20% bonus in budget. So that's always a challenge. And the real problem is that it's very difficult for them to pull technology that they bought out. Because they bought it 5 years ago, and you know, it's subscription, they keep buying it, and the person says, well, you still need it.
Right.
But now all of a sudden all these new things come out. Like at BlackHat this week, you can go down there's thousands of companies that have new solutions that they claim are better than the existing solutions. Well, when you buy one of those solutions, can you pull something else out that you bought? And that's what they struggle with.
Yeah, so that's what I want to ask. So given the fact that there's this huge delta between how much my budget is increasing and what apparently I'm being told I need to acquire, and the fact that I've got subscriptions I have to maintain, and I have obviously headcount stuff, how do I as a CISO optimize the allocation of my finite human and financial resources?
So I think the best way for CISOs to do that is to actually set up an environment where they can emulate the hostile environment that's coming in, that's trying to steal their stuff, right? Steal the information that they have. And by doing that, they can look at all the systems they currently have in place, any new systems that they're buying, and they can start doing sensitivity analysis on it. They can start shutting things off and looking at it and saying, hey, did my security posture get worse, or is it the same, and is my performance better? Because every time you put one of these devices in place, it slows down your performance, and ultimately your cost per bit goes up. So what really they need to do is to test all their systems, that is a holistic system, make sure they're configured properly, make sure that all the systems are performing well, and making a sensitivity analysis that says, well, maybe I don't need this box anymore. I can save money here and spend it on something else in the future.
So this is basically what Spirent does, is you've created this kind of artificial environment where you can, I don't want to call it pen testing, but it's sort of, you call it sensitivity measurement in a box. Tell me a little bit about how your solution works and how I would use it, again, to not only pick the right things to buy, but also figure out what I can pair out of my security architecture, which I think is an important point you're making.
Yeah, so I mean, we call it preemptive intelligence.
Okay.
And what we have is we have two things. We have a product which we call CyberFlood, and it allows people to simulate, you know, DDoS attacks, malware, fuzzing types attacks, and you can do it at line speed. So one of the things that we start seeing is that if you start doing attacks, but there's just the attack by itself, it's very easy to capture.
Right.
But now all of a sudden put 100 gigs of traffic and then put one attack in there, and the question is, can you find that?
Yeah.
Much, much harder to do.
Well,
so what we do is our product emulates that real life environment. We can emulate 8,000 applications. We can throw hundreds of gigs of traffic at you and then see how well those systems basically perform. But we also see that sometimes people don't have that expertise or that knowledge of how to set up the systems to create those realistic attacks.
Right.
We have a team called Security Labs, which is you know, a group of hacking individuals that have been out there for a long time. We had the honor of actually getting accepted for 8 BlackHat and DEF CON speeches. So I think it's one of the highest number of any company I know that's actually out here. And we're talking about things like GPS spoofing. We're talking about autonomous vehicle hacking. We're talking about network hacking, application hacking, mobility hacking, you know, Bluetooth hacking. So all of the things that people care about, because systems are complex. Yeah. Wired, wireless. we're getting into more of a complicated world that's supposed to make our lives easier, and what we're trying to do is to have that knowledge out there so that we can spread that knowledge.
Yeah, but so my question is though, there's new threats all the time that you have to incorporate into your solution, and to some extent you don't want to throw the whole kitchen sink. I mean, is there a profile like for certain types of companies you throw certain types of attacks so that what I'm paring my security environment down to some extent reflects what it is that I'm actually experiencing as opposed to some sort of generic attack?
Yeah, absolutely true statement. So when you really look at the market, you have to segment it out. So most financial institutions have similar problems that you have to go do. So we have financial institution type attacks. Healthcare, right? HIPAA regulations. So we have slightly different solutions for HIPAA. The government is probably the most difficult thing to be in, because if you're a government and you're the U.S. government or other governments out there, you're probably the most attacked profile, and they have the most resources to get attacked as well as attack other countries. So there's different profiles for that. So we go into mainly regulated markets and usually Fortune companies. So our customer base is really all the network equipment manufacturers, all the service providers that are out there that care about the pipe, and as well as the enterprises that have to use that. So really the Global 1000 is really our customer base.
Gotcha. And so if I'm interested in what you've been talking about, how do I start to, what's the engagement model? Like, how would I initially start to explore the possibility of what it is that your technology can do for me? Again, not just in terms of defense, but you're talking about resource efficiency of defense.
Yeah, so I mean, for us, it's really about education. So we have a lot of information on our blog. We have a lot of information on our website. We do a lot of conferences. We put all of our presentations up online where people can download those. And once someone gets comfortable with understanding what we can do, they can give us a call, and then we'll go out there and have an open-ended discussion of what are their challenges, what are they worried about, what are they trying to accomplish. In some cases, it's I don't think I have good defense, I need to increase it. In other cases, it's hey, I don't have enough budget to buy what I need. Can you help me optimize my budget? Or security architect things, and we do all of those things.
Any other suggestions? We got about 30 seconds left. Anything else you want to share about this notion that for CISOs, they need to sort of look at the efficiency? I guess you're talking about not only of the spending, but how it affects their ability to deliver applications and customer experience at performance and at scale.
Yeah, well, I mean, ultimately at the end, I mean, as consumers, we all use different applications. We want performance.
Right.
And so their life is not easy. It never gets easier because we want more things. We want things faster. We want things cheaper. That's what they're up against. And I ultimately think that if you preemptively attack yourself, you look at that profile, you can get the optimum price point where you can optimize your return for your investors too, which is important.
I also think the interesting thing about that approach is that you can regularly do it over time.
Right.
So you can see how things change. So here's how I did things 6 months ago. Let me see, does that still work given my current tool mix and given the current threat mix?
And by the way, that's the key. So you have to do continuous testing because the threats change, and there's new technologies. You got to make sure you have the right things in there to protect yourself.
Great. Well, I really appreciate you giving us that perspective because, again, I think the challenge is not only how to defend ourselves, but how to defend ourselves without compromising our application performance and within the budget we have. So I really appreciate that.
And that's the challenge, exactly. All right, well, I appreciate it. Thanks very much.
Thanks so much. That's Jon Weinschenk from Spirent. Stay with us because the Dark Reading News Desk has a lot more interesting interviews after this.